All right, the mic is on. Good. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
A lot of you guys have already met me, but it bears repeating for those of you who are new. My name is Rita Blake. I'm the manager of education here at the California Nanosystems Institute at UCLA. We are very happy to be doing all of the events today for National Nanotechnology Day. Happy 10/9 to all of you. And this panel, I think in particular, is going to be incredibly interesting. The grad division, along with the UCLA Career Center, worked together to put on all of the careers in panels, which all usually happen here at CNSI. But today we wanted to put one special for this particular event. In the city right now, in Los Angeles, I believe it is, Nikki, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it the LA Innovation Month or LA Tech Month? Innovate LA. Oh, okay. So we're ahead of the game here because that's how we innovate at CNSI. So tech entrepreneurship is a really interesting space because it's something that a lot of people get excited about, but there's no sort of clear template or path as to how to get in. So I hope that with this career panel, we can get some insights by our really excellent and very diverse set of panelists to help kind of elucidate this really exciting but very nebulous career path. So with that, I'm going to introduce our moderator, who is a graduate student here at UCLA and also has his own sort of interesting experience with tech development and entrepreneurship that he'll probably tell you about, Mike Lowe. So please give Mike Lowe a nice applause.
Thanks, Rita. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a fifth-year graduate student in the bioengineering department here. And so I see a very diverse crowd here today, which is very great. So as you're going through your educational paths, you may be wondering kind of how the stuff that you're learning in the classrooms gets translated into sort of products or services that you could provide to other people. So in our formal educational system, it seems like there's not a very clearly defined path going from the classroom into a company. So it may leave you wondering kind of what are the steps that aspiring entrepreneurs can take if they want to go into their own companies and develop their own products. So hopefully today, by talking to these panelists, you'll get a better idea of what you want to do or how you could explore your ideas to make a product that a lot of people can enjoy later on. So a little bit about me. Even though I'm a graduate student, I did work in the tech transfer office here at UCLA for about a year and a half. So it's very interesting to see the side of technology that you don't usually learn in the classrooms, where you're really looking at kind of the potential for commercialization of a particular research that's done here. So a lot of these that you don't really get exposed to in the classrooms. So if you can find those kind of opportunities as you move on in your education careers, definitely encourage you to look into it. So just to briefly introduce the different panelists, I'll start from the very left side. So we have Keith Gibson. He's the assistant director of Blackstone and Blackstone Launchpad and Startup UCLA. And then we have Janet Herr, who is she received her PhD in mechanical engineering in aerospace engineering in 2012. And she is currently a postdoc and a chief executive officer at a startup called Millibat. And then we have Brett Lomnick, who received his PhD in molecular and medical pharmacology in 2013. He's the chief operating officer of the biotech startup called DART Sciences. And lastly, we have Coleman Murray, who received his PhD in mechanical engineering in 2015. So he's currently a postdoc and a chief operating officer of the biotech company called Paralogics. So to start, hope you guys could introduce yourself and then briefly talk about your educational history and then how you got to found your own ventures or companies. So we can start with Keith.
Sure. Hey guys. So I'm Keith Gibson, Assistant Director of Startup UCLA and Blackstone Launchpad. Graduated from UCLA in 2011 with a BS in psychology. I then did my own startup that went through Startup UCLA Summer Accelerator in the first class in 2012. I worked for another startup or two after that, and then 2 years ago became the Assistant Director And Startup UCLA helps all students and alumni start companies, be they startups, nonprofits, small businesses, or the like. We do that through our summer accelerator, where we give $5,000 to 10 companies every summer. We don't take any equity in return. It's totally philanthropic. We also offer free consulting, free co-working space, and events on a monthly basis to any and all students and alumni.
Hi, I started my PhD in 2007 in mechanical engineering here at UCLA. I worked on micro fuel cells, and then after that, I wanted to learn more about the electrochemistry side and joined material science group here at UCLA to learn more about batteries. So there I started learning more about the three-dimensional microbatteries, and then we filed a patent through UCLA. And towards the end of my postdoc, we decided to start the company based on that patent. So we started Millibat in December 2015 and licensed that technology to our company. And now we raised our seed funding and just starting to build the batteries. So we have long ways to go.
Hi, I started here as a grad student in 2007 and finished in 2013. So during that time, I invented a method for identifying drug targets that we patented. And we also used it in many of our other studies. Our lab works on anti-cancer and anti-aging drugs. So we're using it to understand their mechanism and how they're working. And we were approached with the opportunity to start the company a couple of years ago because my PI had also started an anti-aging company with the same group. So they offered us the seed funding to get started, and that's kind of how it happened. And we joined the incubator almost a year ago now.
I'm Coleman again. When I was a kid, I just liked ripping stuff apart and putting it back together. And I think that's kind of where my educational journey started. I went to UC Santa Barbara to get my mechanical engineering degree and really fell in love with nanotechnology and particularly integrating that into automation and robots because I just love robots. And through my PhD program, I got the opportunity to kind of play with both robots and nanotechnology, which resulted in a new technology and some patents that we're now commercializing after PhD to help improve cell therapies, so these kind of new cancer therapies that are emerging. But mostly it's just kind of fun playing in the lab, and then I do run the company on the side as well.
Great. So aside from all the very cool science backgrounds that you guys shared, can you briefly discuss kind of how you go about finding your own co-founders and people who will work in your team? Is it a very difficult process? And yeah, any experience that you have in that sense?
I guess I'll start. So I had a company called Falcon back in 2012. We helped students navigate college campuses. We helped attendees of music festivals navigate music festivals. And so I had to find a technical co-founder to help me develop this. It was just an idea that a friend and I had. And we found him because he was one of our best friends, actually. We didn't know that he had the ability to program. We just took it for granted that we didn't know anybody that could program that had that ability back 5 or 6 years ago when technology was a little more nascent. And so then when we told him at a party that we needed a co-founder, he was like, I'll build that. And we're like, sure you will, because we didn't think that he had any programming ability whatsoever. And then 2 weeks later, he had a prototype, and then he became our technical co-founder. So I recommend if you're looking for a co-founder that you talk to your friends first, tell all of your closest circle of friends that you're looking for somebody with the talents that you're looking for. And then if you don't find somebody in that circle, then you move outwards to, say, your Facebook friends, then move to your LinkedIn network, and so on and so forth.
I would agree with start from around you. So I started a company with the lab mate that I was working with. So we were on the project together, and I couldn't think of starting a company without him. It was just a natural thing. And finding the employee part, we had to find somebody outside of the our network. So we were looking for somebody who had some skills in the electrochemistry, but who would fit into like our company culture very well. So we were lucky to find these two people. We'll find out how it works out, but I think like finding people who like you like to work with is like the best thing.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't gone down this road yet. I'm still the only employee.
Are you in the process of looking, or?
I was for a while, but there's only so much I can do at one time. So that's kind of taken a back burner. And the one guy here who I had known for years and I really wanted to recruit, last year got a PI job at Novartis. So I'm like, well, he's untouchable now. Can't get him to stay here. So it'll probably happen early next year, I think. But for now, I just try to do the best I can to do put out each fire as they come.
Right.
Yeah, to kind of continue that theme of culture with the panel, it's so important. You know, you got a technology and that's usually the focus, but I think the number one reason companies fail is because they have poor culture. So talking to your friends, and I think it has to be the right type of relationship. A friend that can ask you hard questions, people that can kind of call you on stuff and have internal checks and balances. My co-founder, Ed, he and I are really good friends and I think really good work partners because of that relationship. There's no secrets, at least concerning the company. And I think another thing too, which has been really monumental for us, is bringing on an experienced CEO. We met our CEO through something called the NSF Core program, which gets you out and gets you customer interviews and see if your technology matches a specific need. But I think the thing that really clicked was that we all just had a lot of fun together. There's enough stress in doing a startup, but you just might as well have fun along the way. So that's been a big thing for us.
Yeah. So kind of following along the line of getting external resources, how were you guys able to get the fundings that you need initially to start or to at least prototype the ideas that you have?
So I'll say that my company was a software company. It just required Xcode, and so we didn't need any funding in order to do that. It wasn't a deeply technical company like the rest of these up here. It didn't require a lot of capital. So we just were able to work in our parents' homes for a year. So we didn't need any capital when we were working on it.
We need a $30,000 battery cycler to start like testing the batteries. So we were staying as postdocs in our PI's lab, taking 2 channels. So it took like a month to test one battery. And we were desperate to raise the funding to start our company with our own 16-channel battery cyclers. So we were looking for SBIR, that's a government funding for small business, and we didn't get that. We were also trying to talk to angels, VCs, and then in the end, my husband told me there's this Y Combinator program. You should apply for it. And then we looked up and it looked like something for software companies. They incubated Airbnb, Dropbox, those kind of companies, and were making batteries. We thought it was irrelevant. But we found that they were interested in hardware companies. So we applied and they really liked the idea, although it was really early. So we got the initial $20,000 grant from them. And after that program, we were able to raise angel plus micro VCs round of funding. So we were able to start by getting our own equipment and getting into the incubator space on the 6th floor of this building.
Yeah, so kind of staying on that topic, can you explain or briefly describe your experience with the Y Combinator? It seems like a very prestigious opportunity.
Yeah. So we went through it twice. First was through the fellowship program. It was a shorter program, 2 months remote, so we just went on Skype to talk to our group partners, and they would ask like, why can't you ship your batteries today? Why can't you talk to your users right now? And then we're like, okay, we'll talk to the users, just like imaginary or what is it, like our goals for the batteries. With those specs, we went out to talk to the users, and it seemed like we had just enough interest that it was so clear that we were they want the samples. It's not about like finding the users. They were just waiting for the samples. So it was very clear after that that we wanted to get on the battery production. So with that data, we went back to the VCs talking about like, this is how much of an interest we got, and then this is how much we need to get to that sample stage, and then we quickly raised the funding. Also, during that process, talking to the VCs as a like first-time entrepreneur, it was very stressful, and we didn't know what was the right etiquette talking to the VCs. We're the people who need the money, so we're trying to be really polite, and they were very vague in terms of like showing the interest. They looked interested, but we didn't know like how much they're interested, how much they're willing to give us. So in that process, they really helped how to talk very straight with the VCs, like getting the answers from them. So that was really important.
Great. Brett?
For me, I was just very lucky because my PI here had already started one company to develop anti-aging treatments. And we had talked about starting a second company too. So she just convinced the same CEO and the same investor to go for a second company. And I just had to say, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
Nice. That's good. Right.
Yeah, so I think you guys have seen it. It depends on what type of technology you're commercializing. If you're doing a high-tech product, you're going to need a lot of capital to de-risk that eventual product. Versus what sounds really nice I kind of wish I did an app in the end, actually. To date, we're running off of SBIR funding, which, as Janet mentioned, is a small business seed fund from the government, which are extremely useful. And I think it's just about de-risking the tech. How much money and how much time do you need to get before you can convince an angel, can convince a VC that you're going to be a successful product that's going to make money down the end. So that's kind of how I've learned how to think about it. Again, I'm a new entrepreneur, so I'm still learning constantly. But the SBIR funding has been critical for us in moving forward.
Thanks. And just so the audience knows, if you have any questions along the way, you could always raise your hand and ask them. So there will be a Q&A at the very end. So, but while we're talking, you may have some ideas that are very urgent. So yeah. So to continue, I know you guys, the ideas for your companies kind of branch off of the work that you did during your research or just by talking with your friends. Was there any time point during which you kind of doubt whether or not your technology will be good, whether or not you feel like I should just give up and look for something else to work on? It's kind of that path is not always uphill, right? So I just wanted to ask if you guys could share your experience in that regard.
I guess I'll go first and say, so the startup that I used to work on, I am no longer working on. And so, yeah, I stopped working on that. I didn't see any real potential by the time I was finished working on it and it being successful. And so it was time to stop. I just had one of those moments of, I don't think this has a high chance of working out. And so it was the right time to stop working on it. My co-founders kept working on it for another 6 months or so. They went through another accelerator, which was good for them, and they had potential to work on it for even longer. And they also then came to the same realization, and they stopped working on it too. And so I guess the lesson that I took from it is like it's okay totally if like your startup fails. 99% of startups fail. It's not a big deal. So you just move on to the next one afterwards, or in my case, you start working to help other people's startups.
So following on that, is there some particular insights that you had, or is it just a feeling? Or?
So specifically, for the people that just came in, so my thing, Fal, can help people navigate places that were difficult to navigate, one of which is music festivals. And so we were attempting to work with Coachella to help people navigate that festival. As somebody that attended Coachella every year, I was at Coachella in 2013, and I realized that I never used my own app to navigate the festival. And I thought, if I'm not using my own app to navigate this place, why should I expect anybody else to use my app to navigate this place? And so that was kind of the moment where I realized I don't think that this is going to go forward anymore.
Clear enough.
So when I test the batteries and it's not as expected, or it didn't work as it did like 2 weeks ago, and feel so stressed out, and I didn't work out for like a month. I'm in a very, very bad mood, and I get really depressed and doubt everything. And I had to step back and look back on how we got here, how much we have accomplished within 12 months, and that's a huge accomplishment. And also when I'm at that mood, I look on the left and my co-founder is just building batteries. And just by looking at him, it reminds me of how it is going well. And when he's at that mode, I'm not that depressed. So we're kind of out of phase, cheering each other. Yeah, and this project has been our advisors really cherished baby project for him for 20 years, and there has been several PhDs dissertations on this project, and we're at the last stage of making it to be commercialized. So we have no doubt that this won't work. It's a matter of pushing it, getting it done before the funding runs out. So we want to keep that going. It's just eat well, sleep well, and work.
Yeah, I approach it just as a scientist, and as a scientist, I always multitask because I would do one high-risk experiment and one low-risk experiment. So hopefully at least the low-risk one works, and I don't feel so bad when the high-risk doesn't. But I can't run two companies. I can barely run one. So for that, it's tougher. I just focus on the little day-to-day problems that have to be solved first, and let the motivation of accomplishing that push me to give me the encouragement to do the next thing. And my business model is different because I'm trying to get customers for a service. I'm not building or trying to sell a product. And as a scientist, we are not trained to be a salesman. And that is the hardest part, I think. Talking to people at Pfizer and Amgen and hey, you need to use our service. This is what we're charging, by the way. It's not completely proven that it'll work for you, but you should give it a try anyways.
Yeah.
That's the tough part.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think, at least in my experience, entrepreneurship pushes you and applies pressure in a lot of very intense ways. So there are a lot of dark days, and there's a lot of frustration as wow, that's the 10,000th experiment that's failed. This really sucks. But for me, I think what helps a lot is realizing why I got into it in the first place. And in our case, when we went out and talked to people hey, do you need this? We kind of met with some of the patients that are going through these cell therapies. Sometimes they're very successful, and that's kind of what makes me excited. It's there's a whole ton of crap that's going to hit you real quick. Making payroll, pushing the science forward, all of that, you can act out of a sense of fear, or you can act out of a sense of I'm moving forward and here's my dream. And I think if you just continually remind yourself of that, that's what keeps me focused and encouraged. And also having co-founders to encourage you. or just a community of other entrepreneurs who can help support you has been critical for us. And so that's been kind of my experience in dealing with the frustration.
Right. Okay. So staying along that topic, at least from what Brett said about learning how to talk to the big companies about accepting products. So are there any other skills that you have learned along the way that you otherwise wouldn't have learned during your graduate school or your formal education that it's very important to have for just talking to people in general or developing skills? Yeah.
I would say on my company's front, when we were speaking with the music festivals and with UCLA about partnering with both and with investors, which we did speak with, we learned the value of the warm intro. I think some of these people can probably speak to the same, that it's really oftentimes necessary to get a warm introduction to the people that you're trying to develop that business relationship with somebody that already knows them. So in the case of my company, we met somebody at Startup UCLA's demo day that had a relationship with the music festivals. He became our formal advisor, and then the next day he introduced us to Coachella, Bonnaroo, Lollapalooza, and a bunch of others. And we had deep talks with all of them. We had a partnership with EDC that was born out of that, the festival in Vegas. And so we learned the value of the warm introduction.
So this kind of happened organically just by being at the event.
Yeah, so we pitched it. Demo day was actually right here 5 years ago, and then this guy approached us afterwards, and then we developed a relationship with him, and then from there, once we built trust with him and then established that formal advisory relationship with him, he then made the introduction to others. It's not necessary to have somebody be a formal advisor in order to make introductions to other people, but he wanted a stake in the company in order to incentivize himself.
Right. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. Just what other skills other than just the research skills that you learned that helped you become an entrepreneur?
Just not fearing the no from the people that we're talking to. So like there are various needs, and it's possible that they won't need our batteries. So in the beginning, like the rejection was very fearful experience, but that is just the nature, and there are there are users that really strongly needs our batteries. In case we make small lithium-ion batteries, and it's really useful for implantable medical devices because the size is the most thing that it matters. And if we're talking to some like wearables company, they want like huge power out of it. They don't care if it's coin size or they don't care if it's too big. But the size really matters when it becomes like a medical product. So finding that right customers is the most important thing, and the rejections is like getting our making our way to finding the like right customer. So just getting brave and like to hear the no's are the very difficult part, but that was the biggest thing that I.
So how did you find your customers? Was it just by contacting a bunch of people and seeing which ones stay and say yes?
So in the beginning, our former lab members were in like Amazon battery group, and the Apple battery group, and then we found the battery person at Intel making like micro batteries. So we contacted the Intel person through like a warm introduction, and then we already knew some people at Apple and in Amazon, so we made a trip to Bay Area, met everybody, and it was like, yeah, we're very interested. If you give us a sample, then we can start the conversation. And then we came back, and then there were a few other companies, and one of them actually found us, their research group found us in their database, and they were working on the implantable medical devices, and they really wanted to test our batteries even though it's not ready yet. They came to us and like discussed the future testings. So that's our main customer that we're focusing.
I see. Okay. Brett?
Yeah, I've also learned to not fear the rejection, because a lot of my trying to get clients was just cold calling, cold messaging, cold emailing. I've had some success reaching out to the few people I knew who might know the right people in some of the companies. That's what's been most successful so far.
The warm intros.
Yes, because the cold ones, the success rate is very small, maybe 5% or less.
I see.
So, but you just gotta try anyways. It doesn't hurt. I just don't care anymore. I don't fear it. I don't fear the no.
Right. So the warm intros are just mostly people that work in your lab or your best friends, and so people very close to your personal lives.
Well, even just acquaintances, like people I went to grad school that now work at some of these companies that I want to do business with. I can message them and say, hey, do you know anybody I could talk to there? And at least having that like second degree of connection is super helpful. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, to kind of build off of the warm introduction finding, I think the biggest skill for me, besides all the technical stuff, which you get in education and do that, is forgetting not to have, or don't forget to have a life. I guess go out, have a beer, hang out with people. I love brewing beer, and I talked to a guy at GE who also loves brewing beer, and now through that relationship, we're actually kind of building some good strategic partnerships. But I think there's a tendency to kind of laser in on the lab bench, and I think that's not the greatest idea. I think you have to remember to have fun, have friends, have culture, and that's ultimately the skill set that has really helped me. I think I'm a little more naturally outgoing than some of my co-founder, for example, but we still have a lot of fun and have had a lot of good relationships built through those, just by being real, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess to follow up on that for everyone, kind of, what is the life as an entrepreneur like? Is it always just desperate, searching for funds and being at the bench, or is there actually more than that, and you learn a lot more and you have a very fulfilling life while you're doing it?
I'll let these other three take it because they're currently in it and I'm no longer in it.
So we're a little different. Both of us, two co-founders, have family. So I take the full weekend with my kid and my husband. Weekdays, I delegate childcare to my husband. So weekdays, I try to focus on making batteries, talking to investors, talking to customers. And then at the end of the day, I come back home, go to bed with my kid. That's my life right now. Just family and the company.
So there is a balance between the two. Work is not taking over your life, even at night.
Sometimes there are deadlines or there are meetings that I want to make, like materials for. Then I would stay up or write proposals, those things. But most of the time, we try to keep our energy prepared for those nights. So yeah, it's pretty balanced.
Good.
What was the question?
Is it possible to achieve work-life balance as an entrepreneur?
I don't really believe in the term because I feel like I always try to do things I enjoy. So I never would have even agreed to do a startup if I didn't think it was something I would enjoy. Of course, you don't know all the headaches you'll have to get through during it, but that's just life in general. But yeah, I don't have a family like a lot of these people, so I am much more flexible. I drive back here at midnight sometimes because the mass spec needs to be checked on, or work on the weekend a lot as well. But I make time for gym and friends, and that's like you said, that's super important because otherwise I'm just going to be what's the right word? Oh, just overworked.
Right.
Never having any enjoyment. So
Yeah. And if you, yeah.
Yeah, I have a wife and I have a dog, so not as much commitment as you. Which my dog is like my child, so maybe that's. But anyways, yeah, I think when you have external relationships, when you have a spouse, it becomes much more or a little bit more necessary to have that work-life balance. I think the key is really partitioning time well and being efficient with that time. So you're not dilly-dallying on Facebook. When I come in the morning, I'm planning my day. I'm putting meetings on the calendar, and then I just prioritize. One of the entrepreneurs that I met through the UCLA Entrepreneur in Residence program kind of laid it out for me really well. He said, put your tasks into 3 bins: air, water, and food problems. If you're going to run out of air, solve those first. If you're going to run out of water next, solve those next, and then the food you can wait a little bit. But there's a point where you just have to stop. You know, I took a vacation last week because I'm going to burn out. So that's incredibly important, work-life balance. And then there's also times, which I'm sure you guys have experienced, where you just got to burn the midnight oil and just get it done. But follow that up with good rest and good times.
Yeah, to jump off that, so it has to be sustainable in the long run, whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're burning midnight oil every midnight for 5 years, you're not going to be able to do that. It's just not possible. So whatever you're doing, if you're working in your startup and it's successful, it's going to take 5 or 10 years to make it happen. And so you can't have a strategy that only works for a week and try to extend that for 5 years. It's just not going to work. And so whatever it is, whether it be taking vacations or just having a good balance of things that you enjoy, then you have to be able to do that for the length of the entire venture and not just for 2 months or a few weeks at a time.
And just one more thing to add, I think having a team or just a community where you can delegate stuff or just kind of outsource stuff, that's important. I don't know how you do it, man. And still have time for gym and friends. I need to kind of push more friend time into gym time, so that's why
I do that.
Oh, really?
Half of it
You have friends at the gym?
That's right.
Okay.
And some of those friends are grad students here who I talk over problems with.
Okay, so that's multitasking, right?
It is.
Gym. I need to make gym friends.
Gym friends that are scientists, programmers, engineers.
That is a tiny pool of people.
But at UCLA there's tons of them. Just gotta meet them.
All right, so we're going to the gym today.
That's right.
Okay. So kind of to take a step back, and maybe a lot of the audience or some of the audience will have this kind of question. If they have some sort of idea that they're thinking about trying to implement and maybe see if it's feasible, what kind of advice would you have for them in terms of getting started on like prototyping or discussing ideas or brainstorming and the timeline that it takes? This kind of thing.
I think it varies greatly between doing a really deeply technical hardware or other kind of technical startup like theirs, and doing a software company, doing a website or an app. You can prototype one of the latter, in an afternoon. You can throw up a landing page to see if people are interested in it today. You can just put out an email to your friends or post on Facebook asking if people are interested in that kind of thing right now. But doing something like developing a battery, you actually have to prove it out to an extent that might take months or years to do. So it really varies greatly between the two. And if you want to discuss your idea in more depth at any time and you're a UCLA student or alumni, then you come talk to my office, and that's what we do on the day-to-day is we help you do exactly that.
I think it takes years. But thinking about my husband, he works on the side on his own side project. It's been, I think it's six months of weekends and nights of developing his app. And now he has like a working first product that he wants me to try. So I think it depends on the people, like how much dedicated you are, how much time you can spare from your like work and other stuff. But for my husband, it took 6 months.
So in terms of Millibat, it just kind of that was the project you were working on, and then it just grew to be a company toward the end. So it wasn't something that you think has the commercial potential, and then you were very adamant about pursuing it, or it's something that your PI wanted to
Oh,
commercialize?
our PI is very supportive, but he's not part of the founding team. He's a technical advisor. I think he's very happy being faculty, enjoying his life over here. But he's very supportive of us starting the company. When we told him that we wanted to start, he was very happy about it. In terms of a prototype, we had a working battery inside the confined environment. It couldn't have any moisture in that box, and battery works fine in there. In terms of prototypes that we can send out to the customers, so we're very sure that this is a working battery. We have the prototype, but to send out those batteries, it needs to be in a package that is moisture free, and we're developing that, and we're thinking that will be available early next January. So in 3 months, and we're very confident that the prototype is there. It's the matter of the packaging. Is it a giant box or like a tiny package?
Okay. And Brett?
What was the question again? The timeline?
Yeah, so kind of if you have an idea, how do you execute it, and what's the timeline for making things happen?
See, I kind of only know about it from the academic invention side, which is where a grad student or a postdoc discovers or invents something, which is what you did. I don't know if that was your route.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so then the university owns the patent, and UCLA is now extremely great with tech transfer. We were #1 last year, I think, in tech transfer. So it's just finding the right people who will agree to help you, commercialize this patented or patent pending invention.
So it was your idea to commercialize?
Me and my PI.
Okay.
We both wanted to do it.
Right.
So,
okay.
I think it's easier having like university backing and having patent protection for something.
Yeah.
That definitely is helpful for getting seed money and later on venture capital. They like to know that whatever you're doing is protected. So.
Yeah, 100% agree. Well, I went through a kind of a similar process where started as a PhD student, developed a technology. UCLA owns that. That's really important if you're dealing with kind of a higher technical product. Some skill sets I wish I would have learned before going through this. In my undergrad, I wish I'd focused more on programming. So that was kind of an in situ skill I had to learn. I was good with machining, which is, that kind of came with my mechanical engineering training. But I wish, programming, and then I wished I'd worked for a startup, did like an internship earlier. Because then I think you're exposed to more of this stuff. Like, okay, what are the patent risks? It's a small company, so you kind of see the mechanisms in action. So if I was talking to my younger self, I would say, internships are great. Try to get one if you're interested in entrepreneurship with a 5-10 person company. You might get paid crap, but you get a great experience.
Right.
So.
Okay. Sorry, question. Okay, so just to reiterate the question, what is the kind of the legal proceedings for obtaining intellectual properties or some sort of legal protection for the ideas that you have?
It's going to vary depending on what kind of company you have. If it's going to be a really technical company that requires patent protection or IP protection like theirs, or just a software website company, generally apps and websites are not something that you can protect via patents. You might be trademarks or copyrights, but those aren't going to be as easy to obtain or as protectable against others generally, especially the design of an app. As far as resources, so Startup UCLA offers free legal office hours the first Wednesday of each month. And so if you want to talk to a lawyer from Nat Digital Media, you can come talk to our office and we can give you a slot for 15 minutes to talk to somebody for free. As far as when to and where to obtain legal guidance, it really depends upon how much money you have, because they cost a lot of money. Lawyers generally going to be like minimum $300 an hour up to like $700 or $800 an hour. And so if you have that kind of money, then you can hire a lawyer and they can tell you exactly what you need to know. If you don't have the money, then you have to do the research like you were saying online. That's what I did with my company. We use LegalZoom to incorporate. That's generally what you're gonna do. Use one website like that or incorporate.com in order to incorporate if you don't have the $2,000 or $3,000 to spend on a lawyer to do that for you. But if you do have the capital, then sure, go hire a lawyer and have them do it perfectly. But if you don't, you really don't have an option, and then you just gotta learn for yourself and do it that way.
So for us, when we decided to start a company, we had no prior exposure to startups. So the person who first talked us into the startup was the tech transfer officer at UCLA, and he introduced us to the Startup in a Box program at UCLA, and they had this like legal and HR bank kind of packages that they had connections to, and like there were few lawyers that would do the incorporation for free. I don't know if they offer that till now, but this lawyer also did the licensing negotiation with us, so we paid for that part. But the incorporation part was easy with him. But I saw a lot of other YC companies going through like online applications. So they use clerky.com, clerky.com, and you just pay for the application and few $100 fee.
I think Clerky's a YC company, which is probably why they.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, and after that, it was all like a paid legal services, and it was pretty pricey.
And you use your funding to pay for that, though, right?
Right.
Yeah. So like once you raised money, then you could pay
Yeah.
for those lawyers.
Yeah.
Anyone else has any inputs?
Yeah, I think for our company, we brought in a corporate lawyer early, which was a really good idea. We have a great corporate lawyer out in Delaware who set up our incorporation documents, can draft contracts for us, and has that experience. Because I think unless you have legal experience, it's going to be really hard because there's just so much. I would recommend giving them a little slice, get some skin in the game. You'll get more bang for your buck. Sometimes you won't even have to pay for certain services. A lot of these guys who are corporate lawyers and are retired just do this kind of because they have the paper templates that they can send you. It's not a lot of work for them, so they don't mind. And if they're interested in technology, then they'll be excited. But I would recommend talking to a corporate lawyer, especially if you're a tech-heavy company. IP lawyers, that's a whole nother matter, and I think that's where the cost really comes in. I think it's between like $360 to $700 an hour. That you got to be really smart with. And it's starting at a university, I think you get a lot of help because they'll help kind of leverage those IP costs. You have to pay for it later, but at least you don't have to front $50K in cash up front. But yeah, start with a corporate lawyer, give them a little slice, and they'll help you out a lot.
In terms of the IP protection, so this this IP is owned by UCLA, even though we're licensing it. Or before that, when we're talking to our customers, we're talking about we shouldn't talk about the core technology, but just to give an idea, we want a non-disclosure agreement between the two companies, and you can find the boilerplate template online, or they will have some mutual NDA forms. If you're talking to bigger customers, they will have something for themselves. So you just go over that. If it looks reasonable, just sign that. So in the beginning, it's UCLA's property, but as an inventor, you get inventor share, but it's not company's property. You cannot buy the patent, but you can license to use it for the lifetime of the patent exclusively, or in some fields like that.
Okay, so we have a few more minutes left, so I want to open it up to the floor to see if anyone has specific questions for the panelists. Yeah, in the back. So the question was, how do they handle the intellectual properties, and how do they discuss with with the tech transfer office here at UCLA?
So in the beginning, we were grad students, and our PI is professor here. So we had a meeting to to plan this patent application, and then we sent him the draft, and then they have their IP lawyer to do all the applications. It's all done on the UCLA part. When you're licensing it, you pay for the expenses later on. But before that, it's all what UCLA is paying for. And then during the negotiation, there are IP lawyers that you negotiate with or fight with you. There was this person who has always been talking to this
TDG.
Yeah, TDG officer in particular. So he has experience talking to him. So it was easier, less time with him. So we went with him. We liked him very much. Mm-hmm. But it was a very lengthy process. So we started the conversation of licensing it in October last year, and then we finished the whole process late March or early April this year. It took 6 months, but that was a very fast case.
Anyone has?
I think the thing I learned about UCLA Office of Intellectual Property, the tech transfer, is that they see thousands of patents a year, and you got to understand it from their perspective. We got to pick the patents that are going to make money. They're going to make the university money, bring stuff back in. We can't be wasting a lot of resources on things that maybe don't pan out. And so there's a lot of back and forth of justify why you're going to benefit society and why your company is going to make money. I think that's kind of one of the first things to understand. It's a business relationship that the company has with the university. It's not like, oh, we have this great tech, they love it. It's like, no, what's the bottom line? I think bringing in some legal help would definitely be a good thing, especially if you're talking about option agreements or licensing terms. Those things are crucial, and if you don't negotiate them well, they can kill your company. I think we're lucky because our CEO was worked in TTG at USC, so he understands kind of that process. But there's tons of resources you can get out there and understand, okay, how do I license the technology? How do I get access to it from the university where both parties are going to really benefit from the relationship? And usually that breaks down to some kind of balance of cash, equity, and milestone payments. And so that's generally what you should expect when talking to OIP.
Okay. So, any other questions? Yes. Okay, so the question is, while you're working on your startup, is it recommended that you still have a second job to fall back on in case the startup doesn't work, or you just go straight on?
I think it depends largely on the kind of startup, as all my answers are, like what kind of startup you're starting. If you're doing one that takes years of research, like Millibat, then I think you have to probably dedicate yourself full time to doing the research before you can really like dive in. If you're doing one that's like a website or an app, that's something you can definitely do in your off time until you've seen enough traction with it or enough validation that you should pursue it full time. I'm all for doing things in your part time until you see enough validation to work on it full time. But if you're the type of person that like needs to have that full commitment in order to really do something, and you're not going to really work on it until you quit your job or quit whatever else is that you're doing, then do that. But it really depends upon what kind of startup you're doing and what you need in order to work well and be passionate about it.
Even though for a like tech heavy startup, you can start after you get like outside confirmation of the needs. Like you don't have to prove out the technology, but when you present the idea of this product to the users and you have enough confirmation that, okay, this is something that is going to change the world and I have to dive in, then you can start full time on it. I would wait until that moment comes.
Yeah, in my case, from the time we actually started talking about starting it till the time I became a full employee and left UCLA was almost a year. Because it took all that time to get the company formed, get the seed money, negotiate for the patent with UCLA, get the space in CNSI where we could actually do the work. So I was still working as a postdoc in my PI's lab that whole time and just doing this, whatever needed to be done that month for the company, I did it to push it forward. So.
I think too, it depends on your life stage, or if you have a partner. If you can support yourself on one partner's salary, that's a factor. If you're on your own, you have a little more flexibility. That must be really nice. But yeah, I think there's a trade-off too, right? If you're just doing it part-time, like how far are you really going to get? How much do you really believe in it? Whereas if you're really tying your lifeline to it, things are going to move quick because you put yourself in a situation where you have to innovate and you have to move forward quickly. Where that balance is, I think it unfortunately just depends on the person and the lifestyle that they're living. I think for a lot of university-based startups, you can kind of slowly transition out of a postdoc or a graduate student role into the company role, just making sure that there's not too much overlap between what you're doing, just to have like a good mitigation of conflict of interest. But yeah, I think that's been kind of my path so far, is I'm slowly decreasing my role here at UCLA as a postdoc and going on full time with the company as the company gets more cash.
Okay, so we have time for one more. If anyone has any. Oh, yes.
So let's say you have an idea and you want to do your startup and everything, but what if there's like something similar to the idea, but there's some minor differences, but there's also like similar concepts and the same thing, or maybe an issue with compete with another startup, or would not be allowed to? How does that work?
Okay, so the question is, if you have an idea you want to explore as a startup, but you found that there are a company that already has that idea is very similar. So what do you approach in that case? Do you go as a competitor or some other means?
Unless you're talking about something that is in some way patent protected and you're using the same patent. If that's not the case, then there's nothing stopping you from competing with them. A lot of the most successful companies that you see out there were not the first ones to do what they're doing. Facebook was not the first social network. Google was not the first search engine. You just do something different and have a unique offering that incentivizes users to come to you. If you don't have any kind of unique offering in that way, then maybe it's just you have a different sales strategy or marketing strategy that gets people to use yours when they wouldn't use others. There's nothing stopping you except for like your own tolerance for risk if somebody else is already doing it somewhat successfully.
And in terms of convincing users or VCs to fund you, you have to know what is the differentiator between you and the competing product, and you have to that has to be really convincing for them.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, you're done. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I read Peter Thiel's book, if you guys know him. And he said he only wanted to start companies that were at least 10x better than whatever is out there. And that's rarely the case for, I think, most people. Rarely do you have something that's just an order of magnitude better than anything out there. If you do, then definitely go for it. But otherwise, yeah, you're really going to have to think about what are you going to do differently that these other people are not doing, because the competition will be fierce, so.
I was just going to ask, did you talk to these companies' clients at all? Like, that would be, I think, my first step is say, okay, what don't you like about what's currently out there? And that can essentially go into your claim sets for patents, because it can be an IP minefield depending on the area you're in. Like virtual reality is, there's a lot of IP stacking up on there. But if you can identify a client base first and say, I can build this, and this is exactly what I put in the patent, it's specific enough that you can probably get it through the patent office. But you know that there's a market first. And I think that's where I would start. And you can go get free FTOs. There's free FTO stands for Freedom to Operate, and it's a process where lawyers go and they look at all the other current IP that's out there, and they tell you if it's interfering or if you have a clear path forward. For us, we went through a free ITO or FTO process. Usually they're around 10K, so it's a really great program to go through. But I would start with the market that you're trying to offer to.
Okay, so that's all the time we have today. So let's thank the panelists for spending their time.